Where legends breathe again. Eldmyth. Sailors believed they were hearing salvation, not death. One song and entire ships vanished without a trace. This is not a myth about beauty. This is the true legend of the Sirens. Let us speak of a whisper in the deep, a shape in the peripheral gloom where water meets the forgotten shore. We do not begin with a roar, but with a sound, a melody that is not quite music, a beckoning that is not quite a voice. This is the domain of the siren. Forget the simplistic caricatures of later ages. We delve into the primal heart of the myth, into the creature that was not merely a dangerous beauty but a fundamental force of nature given form. She exists in the liminal spaces, in the haze where sea spray becomes mist, where the last light of the drowned sun bleeds into the abyssal dark. To understand her is to understand a paradox, a being of devastating allure and profound loneliness, whose song is both a lament and a weapon. Her origins are murkier than the silt-churned seafloor, woven not from a single thread of myth, but from the collective dread and longing of every sailor who ever watched a coastline vanish into the night. She is the embodiment of the ocean's dual nature, its breathtaking, mesmerizing beauty and its utterly uncaring, annihilating power. She is the promise of a serene, glassy calm that hides the crushing depth below. From the earliest Phoenician traders to the bronze-clad heroes of epic poetry, her story is whispered on the wind that fills the sails, a constant, haunting counterpoint to the hubris of human exploration. Her physical form is a subject of centuries of debate and terror, a shifting vision seen through fear-tinted eyes. In some tales, she is achingly, supernally beautiful, a woman with skin like polished mother-of-pearl, hair the color of deep-water kelp or storm-tossed seafoam, eyes holding the shifting, infinite hues of the ocean itself. Yet this beauty is often marred by a chilling detail. The sleek, iridescent scales that trace her jawline, the webbing between her long, elegant fingers, or the glimpse of gill slits fluttering beneath her collarbone. In older, more primal traditions, she is a hybrid of nightmarish majesty, the upper body of a woman perhaps, but fused with the powerful, sinuous tail of a great fish, or worse, the terrifying, coiling body of a sea serpent. Her wings, when she is depicted with them, are not those of a gentle bird, but often leathery like a bat's or adorned with sharp, metallic feathers that glint like knives. These wings speak not of graceful flight through air, but of terrifying propulsion through water, or of sudden, lunging attacks from the surface. Her voice, however, is consistently described as her most potent feature, a sound that bypasses the ears to resonate directly in the soul, a complex harmony that seems to contain the sigh of the tides, the cry of gulls, and the haunting silence of the deep. To seek her home is to map the geography of fear. She does not dwell in sun-drenched coral palaces. Her abode is the shipwreck, the bone-littered floor of a narrow strait, the submerged entrance to a sea cave, its ceiling dripping with stalactites, where the only light is the cold, blue phosphorescence of clinging anemones and rare, pulsing jellyfish. She is a creature of thresholds and traps, the narrow channel between two cliffs where currents conspire to dash ships to splinters, the deceptively calm lagoon that hides a razor-sharp reef, the fogbank that appears without warning and never dissipates. Her environment is an extension of her nature, beautiful, fascinating, and utterly lethal. The water there is preternaturally clear, allowing doomed sailors a perfect, agonizing view of the treasures of previous victims, glimmering coins, waterlogged silks, the pale coral-encrusted skulls, all resting just beyond reach in the crushing quiet. The air in these places is often still and heavy, smelling of salt, decay, and a strange, ozone-like scent that precedes a storm. It is a silence so profound it makes the ears ring, a silence that exists only to be broken by her song. The song, this is her essence, her weapon, and her curse. It is not a simple, catchy tune. Those who have heard it and lived, a number vanishingly small, describe it as the sound of their deepest, most secret longing given audible form. To the homesick sailor, it is the voice of his wife, singing the lullaby of his homeland. To the ambitious captain, it is the triumphant hymn of a hero being crowned. To the lonely soul, it is the perfect expression of understanding and desired companionship. It is a synesthetic experience. Victims claim they can see the music as colors in the water, taste it as sweet wine on their tongue. The song manipulates memory and desire, weaving a cocoon of perfect, individualized fantasy that makes the real world, the ship, the crew, the impending rocks, seem like a dull dream. It bypasses all logic, speaking directly to the limbic core of the brain. But woven into this beautiful tapestry of sound is a terrible, discordant thread, a subharmonic pulse that resonates with the human nervous system, inducing a trance-like stupor, paralyzing the will, and drawing the listener inexorably toward the source, even if it means walking blindly off the deck into the hungry sea. But what does the siren gain from this endless harvest of souls? Is she merely a predatory animal, luring men as an anglerfish lures smaller fish? The myths suggest a more complex, more tragic hunger. Some scholars posit that she feeds not on flesh, but on life force, on the residual energy of hope and desire that is most potent at the moment of death by drowning, a moment of ultimate terror and ultimate surrender. Others whisper that she seeks something specific, a soul resonant enough to break her own ancient curse. The most poignant versions claim the siren's song is a search for a listener who can truly understand it, who can hear the profound, eternal loneliness and sorrow within the beautiful notes. Each failed attempt, each soul that succumbs to mere fantasy and dies without comprehending the true message, deepens her despair and fuels her vengeful rage. She is thus trapped in a cycle. Her loneliness creates the deadly song meant to end it, but the song's very nature ensures her loneliness continues. She is a prisoner of her own power, forever singing a plea for salvation that itself acts as the lock on her cell. Historical and cross-cultural traces of her kind are found not only in the Greek Sirens, but in the murmurs of many seafaring peoples. The Norse spoke of the Havfru, the sea wife, whose beauty could bless or doom a coastal village. Celtic lore tells of the Merrow, who sometimes shed their red-feathered caps to walk on land, often entering tragic liaisons with humans. Even in the Far East, tales exist of dragonkin or ningyo, whose flesh could grant immortality but whose capture brought storms and misfortune. These global echoes suggest the siren is not a mere invention, but an archetype born from humanity's fraught relationship with the vast, unknown sea. She is the personification of the ocean's unknowable mind. Early depictions on pottery and in mosaics show them as fierce, bird-bodied creatures with the heads of women, often carrying instruments or surrounding a doomed vessel. This hybrid form spoke of a nature unbound by human categorization, a creature of the air, the land perched on rocks, and the sea belonging wholly to none. The most famous encounter, immortalized by Homer, is that of Odysseus. His strategy, to be bound to the mast of his ship while his crew's ears are stoppered with wax, is a profound metaphor. It represents the delicate balance between the desire for transcendent experience and the necessity of survival. Odysseus, the archetypal human, insists on hearing the song but denies himself the ability to act on its call. He experiences the full, agonizing beauty of the siren's promise, struggling against his bonds, begging to be released, while his crew, deaf and thus dehumanized in a sense, rows mechanically onward. This story codifies the siren not just as a hazard, but as a test of the human spirit. What did the siren promise him? Homer, in his genius, leaves the content of the song to our imagination, making it a mirror for every reader's own secret desires. The episode teaches that some truths, some beauties, are so potent they can destroy, and that wisdom lies not in avoidance, but in encountering them with enforced boundaries. Another myth, lesser known but deeply revealing, tells of the sirens' origins. They were once, some say, handmaidens to a goddess or perhaps nymphs themselves. Their transgression varies, failing to prevent a kidnapping or boasting of musical skill greater than a god's. Their punishment was a terrible transformation, binding them to those desolate rocks for eternity, forever singing for a prize they could never rightfully claim. In this version, their predatory nature is a divine curse, a twist of fate that corrupted their original gift. This adds a layer of pathos to their menace. They are not born evil, but made monstrous by circumstance and divine wrath. It suggests that the line between a benevolent spirit of place and a predatory monster is frighteningly thin, often drawn by the caprice of more powerful beings. Some tales even claim they were granted wings specifically to search for the lost goddess or object of their duty. But those wings, useless for true flight from their prison, became symbols of their futile striving. Not all encounters ended in death. Folklore is peppered with rituals and protections devised to ward off or appease the siren's call. Sailors would carry charms of iron or rowan wood, substances believed to repel malignant magic. Some captains would employ a musician on board to play lively, earthly jigs to anchor the crew's minds to the mortal world. The most intriguing protections were based on understanding the siren's psychology. It was said that if one could answer her song with a melody of equal complexity but born of pure, unselfish love, a lullaby for a child, a folk song for one's homeland, the spell could be broken, and the siren would retreat, baffled or perhaps touched. Other tales warn of taboos. Never whistle at sea on a calm day, lest you mimic her call and attract her attention. Never look directly at a strange light on the water. Always pour a libation of wine into the waves when passing a known treacherous point, a small offering for safe passage. There are darker, more visceral branches of the myth. In some coastal villages, stories persisted of sirens who could shed their aquatic aspects under the full moon, walking on land with human guise. These tales often spiraled into tragedy. A mysterious, beautiful stranger appearing in a village after a storm, marrying a local fisherman, only to be discovered years later when her children find a hidden, scaled skin or a peculiar webbing. The betrayal, whether real or perceived, always leads to her return to the sea, often leaving a broken family and a curse upon the village's fishing grounds. These stories explore themes of otherness, the fear of the stranger within the community, and the impossible divide between two natures. They ask if a being of instinct and ancient magic can ever truly conform to human domesticity, or if the call of the wild, deep element is ultimately irresistible. The siren's symbolism evolved through the ages. In the medieval bestiaries, she became a moral allegory, a symbol of worldly temptation, the fleeting pleasures of the flesh that lead the soul to spiritual damnation. Her beautiful face was the lure of sin, her hidden talons or fish tail, the ugly reality of corruption. During the Romantic era, she was reclaimed as a figure of tragic, sublime beauty, the artist's muse that is both inspiring and destructive, the unattainable ideal that fuels creativity but also madness. Poets saw themselves as Odyssean figures, longing to hear the dangerous song of inspiration, even at the risk of ruin. In psychological terms, the siren can be seen as the embodiment of the unconscious mind's pull, the seductive call of repressed desires and instincts that can overwhelm the orderly, conscious self if left unbound. Modern interpretations have further diversified her image. In film and literature, she ranges from the monstrous predator to a sympathetic anti-heroine, often exploring her perspective for the first time. Fantasy genres have created entire societies of siren-like beings, with complex cultures and motivations. Environmental narratives sometimes recast her as a vengeful spirit of the polluted oceans, her song now a warning cry against human exploitation. Her core attributes, the mesmerizing voice, the aquatic connection, the fatal allure, remain but are applied to new metaphors. She appears in video games as a challenging enemy or a mysterious ally, her song a literal game mechanic that charms player characters. This adaptability proves the power of the archetype. She is a vessel into which each era pours its specific anxieties and fascinations. Let us conclude not with a definitive statement, but with a return to the mystery. The siren endures because she represents a fundamental, unanswered question at the heart of the human experience. What is the price of transcendent beauty? What are we willing to risk to hear the song that promises to make sense of all our longing? She is the shadow in our fascination with the unknown, the cost of our curiosity. She reminds us that nature's most breathtaking aspects are often indifferent to our survival, that inspiration and destruction can spring from the same source. As long as there are uncharted waters in our world or in our souls, as long as there is a gap between what we have and what we dream of, the siren will have a place in our stories. She is the eternal watcher in the mist, the singer on the rock, waiting not just for victims, but for witnesses to the deep, terrible, and beautiful truth she embodies. Another legend fades, but the next awaits. Like this video, subscribe and continue the journey through myths.